Hi, Hari. Hey, congratulations on your new movie, Tether.
Thank you so much. Glad you watched it.
You know what? More of a congratulations is being showcased at the Dances with Films Festival this year. I mean, how do you feel about it? That's one of the most prestigious film festivals around the world.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm happy about is I made this film, without thinking about, who I'm going to cast, who I am like, what's going to be like the selling point. But I think I kind of prioritize the story, and Dances with Films also prioritizes storytelling and creators over like, the glitz and glam of that's associated with film festivals. So we were like a good fit. Um, so yeah.
So we have to ask that obligatory question first is where the original idea came from for Tether.
So my writer Angus was inspired from the Parkland High School shooting incident that took place, and that drove him to write Tether.
And how did you want to approach a film like this that is so, I want to say so dramatic, so emotional in its own way into your film? What's your approach?
I felt that when I read the script, it was already emotional itself. I think because it's happening after 3 years after a mass shooting attack. In terms of my approach, what I wanted to do was uh, keep it as subtle as possible with respect to the filmmaking. Already, it is emotional, so let's not heighten it. Like we, so for example, the runtime of the film is 85 minutes. We have music playing only for 20 minutes throughout the film. So that's just 25% of the entire film. Um Also, in terms of the shots, I wanted to have very static kind of photography with very little camera movement to kind of just make this all processable for the audience when watching it. And because the emotional content is it's already emotional, right? It's already dramatic enough. Just didn't want to like overfeed the dramatic elements, making it feel very melodramatic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the color schemes that you chose for this film to set, the tone that helps set the tone and mood for this film?
One of the things I think one of the things, and when I read the script, was this is not just a happy family that gets into this tragedy, right? Like it's a family that has a very complex interpersonal relationships. Everybody has a problem with each other. They all have some kind of disagreements going on. So we did want to have a mix of cool and warm colors throughout the film. So let's say if the past portion was set by these warm tones, the present portions would mostly have cool tones, just to show like the climate of these characters' world. um yeah but even if when you watch the film, like when they move into the new house, the warm tones slightly start making way for the cooler tones, just to signify problems. So we used colors this way.
Was I don't know about the original script, but usually when people make films of like that's reference to school shootings, they usually have scenes of school shootings to set the tone. But you didn't have anything like that for this film because this is mostly the aftermath. Was that a decision on part on purpose not to include, or is it budgetary wise you didn't want to have something like that?
We, in one of the earlier drafts, we did have the final moments of just to show like what was really happening during the event, but we felt that that's not really required, especially when we read the first draft, which didn't have this scene. We felt that it's anyway happening 3 years before the incident. The film is about people who, it's about the characters, it's not about the incident. We have had films that have done that in the past, like, I think Elephant is a great example. So I just didn't want to, like, focus on that part, because sometimes the budget also comes into consideration there, like, to do a very great job, at least that would satisfy me. I would need, like, more budget for it, and I felt this film didn't need a scene like that. I felt, because this is such a common thing happening in the society, in American society today, people would be able to understand without the director showing that the incident taking place.
Now, the film has two main men who coming from different perspectives of the aftermath of a school shooting. One being a father, where his daughter was a victim of the shooting, and the other one being a an officer who was at the shooting. In this case, how did you balance those two perspectives through this film?
uh, I think, like, when one of the challenges with this film, like, in addition to the, like, when you read the script itself, it's the police officer's character is the mysterious one. Like, you do not know what's the, like, maybe 20 pages into the film, you wouldn't know what exactly he's done. um
Mhm.
in terms of balancing it, we just had to ensure that the casting came out correctly. I think Ben, who played the role of Gerald, played it wonderfully, and I think he brings out that, he's able to bring out empathy in the viewer when watching his character. I feel, if there was a if audience didn't buy this person's emotional state, I think the film would have just fallen down. It's just difficult to bring that balance in. So I think Ben played a big part in bringing out the relate not the relatability factor, but audience to kind of empathize with, the plight of this character. And in terms of the balance, I think you see the school, the resource officer's perspective on one side, like what he didn't do and what's his backstory like. With respect to the father, he has his own, backstory, what his relationship with his family was like, and it's the past of the father, or his relationship with his wife, it's his daughter's death, which drives him to go after, the person who was responsible for pulling him down, or pulling his, I mean, who was responsible for the death of his daughter. So yeah.
Absolutely. And since you brought it up, can you tell us about your casting choices on for this film? Why you went with them, and how did you get them into that state of mind? Because this is, it's very emotional, it's very dramatic in its own way for this film.
Yeah, so I mean, just like everybody, I did a casting process, and it was a pretty long process. I would say it was, like, I think, a 2 month process to find these actors. I think that time there was even the SAG strike going on. So with respect to the casting, we had to find people from, the non-union side. But yeah, I think we did, like, multiple rounds of audition for these actors. We had a chemistry read for Leonard and Amanda. We had a chemistry read for Leonard and Gerald, just to see if, sparks fly, just to see if there is chemistry between, like, the husband and wife. Um, the we have So I think during the casting process itself, and even after the casting process, I think Gerald was the one who was, like, very tough to crack. Like, for example, um, Gerald has this very self-deprecating tone, that you see when he meets Bradbury at the therapist office for the first time. He thinks he's a joke written by God. There's a way he talks, like, which is like, with Leonard, it's always, like, straight up dramatic, emotional, but with Gerald, it's always, like, the seriousness and some self-deprecating moments. We had to find that during our rehearsal stage, and it actually went till day one or day two of, filming, where we could find who Gerald is. So it was a very complex character to crack.
Very true. And the therapist itself, I felt like it was like a bridge between these two characters. Can you talk about putting a character like the therapist in there to show off, I want to say a third perspective, almost like an outside perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like what's the most interesting part about the therapist's character was like seeing both Leonard and Gerald. This would happen when you're in a very small community. We don't name where this film is taking place, so it's somewhere in America. The therapist character is the one who is trying to get the perspectives of both these men, and we do put her in a tight spot, um, on whom to go for, whom to root for. Yes, it is. We are trying to get the audience also to kind of guess, to see whose side she's going to take. Yeah.
Now, oh, one thing I do actually enjoy, and I found this refreshing, but I want you to explain it a little bit further on the decision, is the daughter doing self videos in this film. Obviously, it's a lot different from everything else in this movie, Tether. But could you talk about the decision of putting her, her perspective on her relationship and putting it as a self video?
Yeah. So one of the things I really loved when I read the script, and this script went through like various stages of rewrites, but I think a couple of things that have always remained are the daughter's perspective. When I read it for the first time, the person who died, like Paula, who died, she's not just, I mean, yes, everything is unfair, but she is somebody who could have gone on to do bigger things for herself, for family, for the country. You could see that when she talks in those videos, like somebody who's so young for her age. She is like, she's so mature for her age. She talks really deep things, for the
Mhm.
lack of a better term. And I found that to be very refreshing. In terms of filming it, again, we wanted to have a perspective. We see the young Paula's videos in terms, through Leonard's point of view, through a camcorder. Uh, we see we see a, we see everything from, like, a camera that's capturing these characters. But what if we are leaving this abstract? What if these Paula's videos are actually seen by Leonard or not? It's kind of abstract, and leaving that to the viewer's imagination. It's just a person's perspective.
Very true. And the way how you ended this film, was there much of a debate on how you wanted to end this film? Because, this film could have gone in so many different directions. But tell us about the decision to come with this, to leave it with this ending.
So so this is a film that I totally self-funded. I made this film thinking I'm not gonna get even a single dollar out of it. Like, that's really how I made the film. I didn't know about what's the distribution market like, if the film needs stars, whatever. I just wanted to make this film because I was very deeply passionate about doing this. We So when I got the ending for this film, when I read the ending for this film, I was like, okay, great, this is awesome. Let's have this. Because I think any film, like, this is how, the let's say, like, after the shooting, the Gerald Leonard showdown ends. You show the characters moving on, you see Leonard moving on. Okay, you see there's like a happy ending. But having this scene is like, what was the last conversation, or potential we don't even reveal if it's the last conversation or not. So what if a conversation between a father and daughter would look like? And you're just leaving that to the audience's perspective. And I think, like, the intention was to, more than the genre, more than like a drama turning into a thriller, we still wanted to circle it back to, like, the daughter, who this is about. So yeah, that was a decision to go for this. And it's a scene I'm very proud about, like, in terms of directing. And I think I shouldn't, like, praise myself, but I think it's a very bold choice to, I think, like, have an ending like that. um, yeah, considering how the film kind of escalates in terms of tension. But
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, you certainly did build up to the tension, and we everyone was wondering what how it would actually end. But what's your enjoyment of making independent films like this? Because obviously, it's truly challenging, especially on a budget.
Yeah, I think like because this is my first indie feature, like I didn't want to I didn't want to make any compromise really. And I did have, I have a day job where I work as an electrical engineer, so in terms of the finances I think I could afford uh, up to a certain amount. um, but yeah, I just wanted to make the film. I really like the story, and I think when you're drawn into a story, you want to make it no matter what. And my writer Angus always helped me with the rewrites and stuff, like as we were getting closer to the filming. um, yeah, it's something I really enjoyed doing. uh, and one thing that really I think I am drawn towards are stories dealing with complex characters. Here, I think the socially relevant theme was a bonus for me to direct. But yeah, so anything that's has complex, messy characters, I'm always drawn towards them, and I'll somehow try making it happen. So yeah.
So after this experience, you wanted to do this again?
So I think I've always asked myself this question: would I want to go and reshoot some of the scenes? I don't think I would. I think there is like, I think we shot this in 10 days. It's a very crazy schedule. A lot of things fell in place for us. So I don't know if we'll be able to pull this off again. To be very honest with you, and I think the performance as they are, the cinematography, everything lined up properly. So for this, I think I'm more than happy to not touch this film.
Most excellent. And Holly, let me wrap it up with one last question with you because you done such a wonderful film with Tether and with these complex characters. What is the primary message that you hope that audiences would get out of a film like this?
No, I think movies are, typically, like, people perceive it to be, for entertainment purposes. I go and watch the studio films all the time, but I think these kind of movies start a conversation amongst people, as a society, where we are heading. um, at least for this, like, have these conversations. And if not, like, if that stuff, at least like as an individual, when I watch a lot of films that have shaped me, I've asked, okay, how do I improve as a person? How do I see another perspective and be like, okay, this is something I'm not, going to do again. It could be any problem. You just, when you get a new perspective, the way you see things change. So yeah, I think the request from me is for the audience is just watch the film, start having a conversation about people whose stories we may never know about, which the press never covers about. And yeah, and when I read the script, I think when I read it for the first time, I think it's always about like the big news. This is also big news, the story of these families, story of other people affected. We don't get the coverage that we don't focus on them, I would say.
And yeah, I know. Tether is such an excellent movie because it hits close to home because, hundreds of these types of shootings have happened in the United States, and there are, thousands of victims. So a lot of people would be intrigued to watch a film like this. So, Hari, thank you very much for speaking to us about Tether, and please enjoy Dances with Films.
Thank you. Tether is premiering on June 22nd at 6:30 p.m. at TCL Chinese Theatre at Dances with Films Festival.
And that's a great theater. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.